assume that everyone who's a millionaire is either a tech founder or a celebrity or a musician. And, I think we have perceptions, as you rightly said earlier, around wealth. What are some of those key steps? If someone's in their 20s right now or in their 30s and they're like, I want to be a baby steps millionaire. I don't want to walk through the 7 steps because I know they're beautifully laid out in the book. What are some of the first things that they need to start thinking about, Dave?
Let's go back to it and say out loud, the tech person or whatever, the stuff we're teaching will not make you a billionaire. It won't do it. Mathematically, it won't. These were millionaires, $1 to $10 million worth of net worth. Okay? And so that's a lot of money, but it's not a billion. These people don't have private jets. They don't have 6 houses. They don't have a Lamborghini. Those are billionaires that have that. And a lot of those are people that are household names, the Gates or the Buffetts or the whatever, that kind of thing. But that's a different world. In this world, the way to get the first 1 to 10 million ends up being 80% of them, a little about 83% of them, had 2 things that showed up almost every time. Number 1, they funded their 401k in good mutual funds and their Roth IRAs in good mutual funds over an extended period of time, 12 to 17 years. That's not that long, but that was long. It's longer than 5 minutes, and it's not get rich quick. It's the tortoise, not the hare. So 12 to 17 years. During that time, the average millionaire paid off their home in 10.2 years. And so what we've got a guy or a gal that's got $1.5 million net worth, and in there is a $500,000 paid for home and $1 million in their retirement accounts. And that's almost all. It was those 2 things, the power of compound interest, building up your mutual funds, winning in your 401k, and just steady, never stopping, never panicking when the market's down, just steady. Just keep doing it. It's boring. It's not sexy at all. You're not going to be on the cover of Fast Company magazine. Paying off your mortgage. Nobody knows you did it. It's just kind of, but here you sitting with a paid-for house and $1 million, I think you're going to be okay. So that's what most of them did. A few of them were farm millionaires, large enough to mention here, meaning that they not inherited, but they were a farmer that bought land, and then they bought more land, and then they bought more land, and that land in and of itself became worth over $1 million. That wasn't that unusual. We saw several of those as well. But what we discovered was process people are the ones that did this, whether they were baby steps millionaires or just millionaires. And so the number 1 career was engineer. Number 2 was accountant. Number 3 was teacher. Number 4 was an executive, and number 5 was a lawyer. MDs didn't even make the top 5. Medical doctors made number 6. And now, if you count even the MDs, if you count every one of those, okay, engineer, accountant, teacher, executive, and lawyer, every one of those are systems people. They believe in a set of principles, and when you follow those principles, you get a result. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. If you plant corn, don't be shocked corn comes up. In every one of those, it's a cause and effect world that they live in. They believe in systems. They believe in processes. Figure out the system, work the system. You build a bridge this way, it stays up. You do a lesson plan this way, the student learns. Every one of, you follow a set of decorum and laws and processes in court, or the judge puts you in jail for contempt. You have to. And so all of these are process people. So it turns out it's a process.
You spoke about something really brilliant. It's not sexy. It's not quick. And it's not what it looks like on Instagram, on social media, in the pictures. I feel like half the battle is building that discipline muscle, that habit, that pattern of consistent focus. What is taking us away from that? How do we build that muscle? Because it sounds like to me that that's what's blocking us. We want it to be sexy. We want it to be fast. We want it to look a certain way. And you're like, wait. It doesn't look like that at all.
I think it's disturbing. The wonderful things about social media are obvious. The wonderful things about the internet are obvious. We're able to do this interview this way. It's obvious that it's a fabulous convenience and everything. The downside is that we're creating generations now, even up into my old generation, of people who have the attention span of a gnat. I mean, they can't stick with anything. And in order to do something of greatness, it requires a steady application over a period of time. The old days of a craftsman going through years of apprenticeship in order to be world class at something. Now we want to just snap our fingers and instantaneously be able to do this because we carry this magic wand around in our hand that if we push a button, stuff shows up on our porch. I mean, it's magic. And anything we want, you can get anything you want on this thing very, very quickly. You can't even have a good argument because you can get the answer to the problem at there. And we used to sit around and have fights at dinner and our family and argue about whether somebody was right or not. Now somebody goes and looks on the internet and finds the answer. And, well, George is just wrong. Henry's right. And it's just, so this attention span thing is a problem. And really what that is underneath, without shaming someone or trying to shame a whole generation, I'm not doing that because there's people within each generation that don't do this or that break free from it, it's emotional maturity. The ability to delay pleasure is a sign of maturity. That's what grown-ups do. Children do what feels good. YOLO. You only live once. Quick. Instead of like, I'm going to sacrifice to get a greater outcome. I'm going to live like no one else so that later I can live and give like no one else. I've got to have the moment at this moment. That is a childish expression of any area of your life. It will destroy your marriage. It will raise horrible children. It'll mess up your career, and it certainly will mess up your money. Short-term thinking. The get rich quick has never worked at any time in the world as an ongoing, provable, sustainable process. It's always, and that's where the tortoise and the hare, Aesop's fable comes from, right? And so we got to stick with this idea, and that even includes our generosity. We were starting to talk about generosity, and the generosity with these folks, with these millionaires that we studied, is a steady thing, like their savings is a steady thing. They're not trying to have this one big event that says, look at me, how generous I am. Instead, they're fairly quiet about it, almost absurdly quiet and anonymous about it, and they steadily give in to something that they believe in. If they're a Christian, they're going and giving a tithe at their local church. If they're Jewish, they might also be tithing at their synagogue. Regardless of your faith background, there's not a religious background on the planet that does not have a steady giving rhythm as a part of its teaching. Every one of them do, because it's how you build character. And when you're giving, it's almost impossible to not become grateful. And as you become grateful, the next thing that happens is you become more and more content. And the more content you are in a totally discontented culture, the great advantage you have to build wealth.
Dave, that is such a fantastic answer. I love how we're talking about money, but we're talking about emotional maturity. We're talking about, character and developing patience and developing discipline. And you told us earlier how you initially came to wealth the first time around, or what was considered rich where you were from the first time around. How emotionally and mentally prepared do we have to be to even be wealthy? Because we talked about the discipline and the postponing of pleasure before we get there. But then even when you get there, to stay there requires a different level of mental and emotional maturity. Talk to us a bit about that, because I think that's often undervalued.
It's a different level of nobility, not in an aristocracy sense or a looking down on the little people sense. That's not what I'm saying at all. But this idea, what happens is the people that do this, they grow into, they may be in the acquisition mode early, and as it goes along, but as the weight of the responsibility of the wealth starts to grow on them over time, it seldom happens quickly, then it flips from acquisition to serving. And they see their wealth as an opportunity to serve. Your spouse, I can get her a nice car. I can serve my children. They can go to college and we can pay for it. I can serve my community and we can open a homeless shelter or fund a homeless shelter. I can serve the world at large. And the more you start to realize then, the more money you're managing, the more people you can help. Because at a certain point, that you can't ingest enough stuff If you eat when I was a kid growing up, I never had lobster. Red Lobster came to town. It was a big deal, right? And if I got lobster with that drawn butter, oh, my mouth's watering right now. If I got lobster with that drawn butter, I thought that was rich people food. And so, I thought rich people ate lobster all the time. And so once I had some money, I finally figured out if you eat enough lobster, it tastes like soap. You can't get enough cars to be okay. Winning does not heal you. Becoming wealthy does not heal you. It makes you more of what you already are. And if you gain wealth gradually and build the character as you're doing it, it will flip at some point and you will become a noble servant of your family, change your family tree, of your community. And that's really all money is good for after a certain point. Again, you can have some nice things, and I'm not against having nice things. But your nice things will have you eventually. They'll eat you alive if that's where you think happiness is, because it's not.
Wow, winning does not heal you. That's definitely a powerful, powerful message for, each and every one of us to hear, especially because I think society, as you said earlier, has actually programmed that feeling, is that if you win, you won't even, actually, we've been made to believe if you win, you don't even need healing.
We end up seeing these folks that are in the celebrity, in the spotlight, whether it's sports figures or Hollywood figures or whatever, and they become massively successful within their craft and financially successful too, but they prove out the concept of what we just said. Their lives are a mess many times. And they didn't get what they hoped to get from all of it. They didn't get healing. They didn't get happiness. They didn't get wholeness. They didn't get contentment. Quite the opposite. Because what money does is it's a magnifier. It makes you more of what you are. And so to the extent you are whole, it's going to make you noble and serving. And to the extent that you are greedy, you're going to be unbelievably greedy. To the extent you have a temper problem, you're going to be a rageaholic. You're going to be more, if you're crazy, you're going to get crazier. Whatever it is, it makes you more, it magnifies whatever you are. And so it's a powerful weapon. It's a powerful tool to be used, but it is very dangerous because it's a magnifier.
Yeah, and that links nicely to this really important question you ask and answer in chapter 7, which is, will wealth ruin my kids? Right? I think that's a very common, again, misconception. It's a common question. And you talk about how sometimes parents actually wait too long to talk to kids about money because we kind of things like, oh, they're not going to understand it. They're not going to get it. They're not old enough yet. Talk to us a bit about why we have that fear that wealth will ruin our kids and how early can you start? And I know in the book you talk about the 5 behaviors to raise money smart kids, but maybe if you can just touch on 1 or 2 of them that you really feel is the right time to start and where to start.
Well, if we go back to our earlier discussion, understand that handling money is 80% behavior. It's not different. And so in the sense that we have to teach our children to behave. We have to teach them to have discipline, self-discipline. They don't have self-control. They're going to be a horrible spouse. They're going to be a horrible parent to my grandkid. If they don't have self-control, they're not going to be a good employee or a good boss, a good leader in their organization. And so they have to learn behaviors at home. And we can use money as one of the things we do that we use to teach them to have behaviors. And so one of the things we all had used on us and we used on our kids was, you have to do your homework and you have to get good grades. Well, that's control, self-control, and we'll walk with you, we'll coach you, we'll help you if you're struggling, we support you, but not doing it is not an option. You're going to learn to do it. You have to brush your teeth. You won't have teeth when you're old. You need to brush your teeth. That's a good thing. And so you can't just ignore this. You have to bathe, because that way you'll get a spouse later and leave. And so, you have to, we want to teach our kids these things, right? So money is the same way, and we teach them age appropriate. When you pick up your toys in your bedroom and you're 3, what that really means is that I picked up all your toys and you picked up 2 of them. But I'm going to give you all the psychological and emotional credit and give you a high five as the best room cleaner that there ever was on the planet. Oh, and I'm also going to give you a $1 bill to put in your piggy bank over here. I want to put that dollar bill on you, because I want you to emotionally associate work with money. Work is where money comes from, and that's absolutely vital. And if you can do that, then you get the ability to teach them to save and to spend wisely. You can participate. But I'm not going to send a 5-year-old to the salt mines. We're not doing that, you know. But we're gonna when you're 14, you're gonna do some work. Because if you wait till they're 18 to start teaching work ethic, they don't know how to do anything.
Yeah.
And then some poor soul is going to hire them later, and they don't know how to work.
Yeah.
And so it's parenting is a gradual process, like so many good things in life. And so, you know, the idea that we're going to gradually teach them to work, give, save, spend, and if you can teach them to do those things age appropriately, gradually over time, then they've got the character. They have the skeletal structure in their character: self-control, self-discipline, the ability to delay pleasure, the ability to set a goal, work towards a goal progressively, age appropriately, and with some help, with some grace when they fall down, with some love. But not helicoptering in and saving them. Let them feel the pain of the struggle. It's good, because that's where it all comes from, man. You get a callus that way. And so then they're ready to manage money. Oh, by the way, the last step then is that they move from this is how money works to now it is a responsibility. Money is a responsibility. You have to manage money for the good of others. You get to participate in some good things by managing it, but you're managing it for the good of your family, your kids, your grandkids. You're changing your family tree, and that's what I did, and that's why there's some for you in this inheritance. And a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Proverbs. And so we're going to do that, but you don't get that if it's going to harm you. And it would harm you if you don't have the skeletal structure, the muscle sinew in this area to carry it. And so when you leave kids that were, quote, in the old days we used to say so-and-so was a spoiled kid. If you have a spoiled kid and you leave them a bunch of money, well, they're a reality show star later. That's their only skill. And so they can't do anything. And it's sad. They're sad humans, and they struggle. And then they fall down all over the place, and everybody's watching them do it. And they do it with big numbers around them. It's awful. And so instead, what we want, this is a family that is a family of service, and this money is a responsibility. And if you view it that way, you will have the opportunity to manage it for the good of others, and for the people of faith, for the good of God. We're going to manage it for God's good. And so, you can have these kinds of ethereal discussions, but you had to build the character along the way.
Yeah, what a fantastic and phenomenal answer, Dave, because I did an activity recently where I sat down and I wrote down all the jobs I've had in my whole life. And I was writing down what I learned from each one of them. It was a really fun thing to do.
Yeah.
And I realized that when I was 14, I was a paper boy in my area. So I delivered newspapers in my area and I got paid for it. And I remember all the other boys would go and throw the papers in the trash. So the organizers started giving me more money to do all their streets as well. And then I worked at Morrison's, which is our version of Walmart. It's a grocery store. And then I worked in retail and so on and so forth. And so in the last 20 years, I've had so many jobs since I started working. And you're so right that I remember paying for my first ever phone bill, paying for my car insurance. Like my parents never paid for those things. I had obviously lived in their home and was taken care of with shelter and food. But beyond that, any expenditure was personal. And I'm so grateful to them for that, because it set me up for this understanding of how hard it was to make money, how hard it was to save money, and how often as a kid I was a bad spender and saw zero in my bank account, and what that felt like from an anxiety point of view.
They let you fall down, but they never let you fall down hard enough that you were permanently harmed.
Yes.
Just that you learned the lesson. And so that's a loving parent. And it's not child abuse to teach a child that money is limited. It's not child abuse to say no. No is a complete sentence. It's not child abuse to teach a child to work age appropriately so that they can have a sustainable life with dignity. It's very difficult to have a sense of dignity if you don't have a sense of power over the controllables out there, and people that don't know how to work have no power over those controllables.
Yes, very well said. Chapter 8, Dave, you speak about something I mentioned earlier, wealth and the wealthy are not evil. You know, that has always been a struggle, and you had this beautiful sentence in the book which you says, equal is not fair. Right? Equal is not fair. And I remembered, I don't know if you've seen this, there's this graphic on social media that's gone viral a few times. I don't know who made it, but it's a picture of like three people. One's shorter, one's a bit taller, and then there's a really tall person, and they're all standing on an equal size block to watch some sports. And it says it's similar to that, where it's like equality doesn't work because each of these people need a different set of steps to be able to see this sport. And as soon as I read that line in your book, equal is not fair, I thought, okay, that makes sense to me. But to a lot of people, that's worrying. A lot of people would rather wealth be distributed equally and you know, figuring that out and working from that perspective. But walk us through your thoughts on why equal is not fair and how we should think about that differently.
If you throw the papers and you actually throw them and deliver them to the people's houses, and you get paid the exact same as the guy who threw them away, that's not fair. You provided a much more service to the community. You had integrity. You didn't steal. And the guy who threw them away took someone else's papers, they weren't his, and he threw them away. That's stealing. And he didn't follow through on his promise, and he was getting paid for a service he didn't even attempt to do. That's also stealing. So his lack of integrity and lack of service in the marketplace, and to say that those two people should be paid the same is an immoral statement. Equal is not fair. It would not be fair for that guy to get the same money over time as you got. Now, I would never propose that two people doing the exact same thing and providing the exact same level of service somehow got different because of their skin color or their sex or something like that. No, we've got folks of every background, every ethnic origin, and everything else in our leadership team, and we're completely blind to all that. All we want to know inside Ramsey is, did you do the job? And if you did the job, you get the money, and that's how that works. And so that's the only measure. But to say that we're going to spread it out across the people who did the work, didn't do the work, who plowed the field or didn't plow the field, who showed up when the storm came through and got the tree out of the road. The other one just sat at home and played some kind of game on the TV or something. Whatever. I mean, that's just communism, is what it is at its core. It's an economic system. It's not name calling. This idea that things are equal. So we have to eliminate that, number one. Then once we eliminate that, then we start to understand what my friend Rabbi Lapin says. Rabbi Lapin's an Orthodox Jewish rabbi. We become really good friends because I just love his teaching, like I love yours. He says that money comes to people who serve. That when you serve, your customers give you certificates of appreciation with presidents' faces on them. And so, this idea that evil people prosper, no, the percentage of evil people among the wealthy is about the same percentage of evil people among the poor. Because again, money makes you more of what you already are. You're magnified. And so here's the thing. You think about it. If you got a guy that works on cars, he has an auto repair shop, and you go in there and he tinkers around on the car, and he says, that'll be $150. And you drive away, and the next day your car breaks down again. You come back in there and you go, hey, I gave you $150. You didn't fix my car. He goes, I know, but it'll be another $150. I'm not giving you another $150. And you go back. Finally, you go, okay, this guy's a crook. Okay, or he's incompetent. One of the two. He doesn't know how to fix my car. Now, what do? Do you keep going there and giving the guy money? Obviously not. No, more than that. You go tell everyone you know, this guy's a crook. Don't do business with him. Now, does that guy prosper at the end of the story? Of course not. He goes out of business. Over time, the marketplace will punish him for his crookedness. Now, take the guy next door who's got an auto repair place. You go in there, he looks under the hood and he goes, oh, there it is. And he goes, you're okay. Well, what do I owe you? Nothing. Just remember me when your car really breaks because I just fixed it. It's no big deal. And you drive away going, I found a guy who fixed my car for free and he actually is honest. This is a unicorn. I'm going to tell everyone about this guy. And then this guy, we visit this guy now 20 years later. He's got a franchise operation. He's got this color of store fixing cars in 56 cities across America. He's worth $8 million and now he's evil. What?
Yeah.
That's absurd. The line of thinking here, the critical thinking skills that get you to that are non-existent. It's impossible to be a crook and prosper in a free marketplace long term. Or to use crookedness as a method of wealth building because it actually works against you. So that's Rabbi's, that's his line of thinking on that, and that's where we go to. So, I know evil people that are rich, but I know a lot more that are unbelievably kind, generous, grateful. They got more time for you and they'll do anything for anybody. I mean, they're just unbelievable humans. And that's the one, I know a lot more of those than I do crooks. Money is amoral. It's not about money. It doesn't have morals. It's about the human being, and when it touches that human, it reflects who they are.
Dave, this has been so much fun getting to know you. I've always watched you from afar, admired you, a big fan, follower in me, and to sit down with you and to have this conversation with you and to hear about the depth of these ideas, right? You're highly strategic, methodical. People can actually get really functional advice on how to change their lives financially. But I love the depth and the gravitas with which you do it. I genuinely mean that. And we end every On Purpose episode with the final 5. These questions have to be answered in 1 word or 1 sentence maximum. So they're a quick fire round. Dave Ramsey, these are your final 5. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. So the first question is, what is the best financial advice you've ever heard, received, or given?
Be intentional.
Second question, what is the worst financial advice you've ever received or heard?
You can borrow your way into wealth.
Great answer. Very aligned. All right, question number 3. What do you believe is the best investment or spending that you've ever done in your life?
Giving.
Beautiful. Question number 4. What do you think was your biggest financial mistake of an investment or expenditure?
Going deeply in debt to build wealth.
And 5th and final question. If you could make one law that everyone in the world had to follow, what would it be?
I would require them to be generous.
It's beautiful. Dave Ramsey, everyone. If you haven't already got the book, Baby Steps Millionaires, please go and grab a copy of the book. If you don't subscribe to Dave's podcast, The Ramsey Show, make sure you do. His podcast, lots of other incredible podcasts as part of that network as well. Please tag Dave and I on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter about what resonated with you, what you took away. There were so many nuggets of wisdom and insight. I love the studies and research that Dave shared. Make sure you tag us both to let us know, because we'd love to see what you took away. And make sure you keep coming back to On Purpose for more insights into your mental health, which includes your finances, which includes your fitness, and of course includes your friendships. Dave, thank you so much. Any final words for our community?
I'm unbelievably honored to be with you. I hope we get to do this again, and the next time we need to just hang out a little bit.
I would absolutely love that. If you're in LA, let me know. If I'm in Nashville, I'll let you know. And otherwise, I'm going to keep supporting from afar, and we'll definitely do this again. So thank you, Dave, and thank you to your whole amazing team as well.